That's what Principal Richard Morrison said to 17-year-old Emma Carter on a random Tuesday morning in October. His reason? A parking spot. But Principal Morrison had no idea that Emma's mother was Diane Carter, the district superintendent, his boss, the woman who had the power to end his entire career with one phone call. And what happened next? Let's just say, Emma taught the principal a lesson he'll never forget. This is Emma's story. Emma Carter wasn't your typical high school senior. While most kids at Riverside High were worried about parties, dating, and social media followers, Emma had different priorities. She maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA, volunteered at the local animal shelter every weekend, and was captain of the varsity volleyball team. But here's the thing about Emma. She never bragged about any of it. She drove a beat-up 2008 Honda Civic that her dad had helped her buy with money from her summer job at the coffee shop downtown. She wore simple clothes from Target. She brought homemade lunch to school every day in a plain brown bag. To everyone at Riverside High, Emma was just Emma. The quiet, hard-working girl who helped you with your homework if you asked, but otherwise kept to herself. Nobody knew the truth about her family. And that's exactly how Emma wanted it. You see, Emma's mother, Diane Carter, was the superintendent of the entire school district. She oversaw 12 schools, hundreds of teachers, and had the authority to hire or fire principals at will. But Emma had begged her mother to keep it a secret. "Mom, please," Emma had said, when they moved to the district 3 years ago. "I don't want special treatment. I don't want teachers acting weird around me. I don't want kids trying to be my friend just because of who you are. Can we just not tell anyone?" Diane had agreed. She used her maiden name professionally, Diane Richardson, and Emma used her father's last name, Carter. Different addresses on the school records. No connection on paper. For 3 years, it had worked perfectly. Until that Tuesday morning in October, Emma pulled into the Riverside High parking lot at 7:42 a.m. 18 minutes before first period. The student parking section was half empty. Kids were still arriving, drinking coffee, finishing homework in their cars. Emma spotted an open space in the third row. Nothing special, just a regular unmarked parking spot, and pulled in. She turned off the engine, grabbed her backpack from the passenger seat, and was checking her chemistry notes one last time, when someone banged on her driver's side window. Bang, bang, bang. Emma jumped, her heart racing. She looked up. Tyler Henderson was glaring at her through the glass. Behind him stood 2 of his football buddies, arms crossed, looking intimidating. Tyler Henderson was Riverside High royalty, star quarterback, homecoming king, the kid who threw the parties everyone talked about on Monday mornings. His locker was covered with photos of him making touchdowns, holding trophies, posing with his expensive truck. But here's what made Tyler truly untouchable at Riverside High. His uncle was Principal Richard Morrison. And Tyler made sure everyone knew it. Emma rolled down her window halfway. "Can I help you?" she asked calmly. "Yeah, you can help me," Tyler said, his voice dripping with entitlement. "You can move your piece of garbage car out of my parking spot." Emma blinked. "Your parking spot? I don't see your name anywhere." "I don't need my name on it," Tyler shot back. "Everyone at this school knows I park here. Every single day. It's my spot." Emma glanced around the parking lot. There were at least 15 empty spaces visible from where she sat. "There are plenty of other spots available," Emma said, keeping her voice level. "I got here first. This is a public student parking space. I'm not moving." Tyler's face turned red. His friends shifted uncomfortably. "Do you have any idea who I am?" Tyler stepped closer to her car. "My uncle is Principal Morrison. He runs this school. You really want to start your day by pissing me off." Emma's best friend, Jessica, appeared, jogging over from her own car. "Emma," Jessica said urgently, "just move. Seriously, it's not worth the drama. You know how Tyler is." Emma looked at Jessica, then back at Tyler. She could feel her heart pounding. Part of her wanted to just give in, avoid the conflict, move her car to one of those empty spots, and forget this ever happened. But another part of her, the part that had worked 3 jobs over the summer to buy this car, the part that studied until midnight every night, while Tyler posted Instagram stories of his parties, the part that was tired of entitled people getting whatever they wanted just because of who they knew, that part refused. "No," Emma said firmly. "I parked legally in an unmarked space. I'm not moving." Silence. Tyler stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Okay," he said slowly. "Okay. Have it your way." He pulled out his iPhone and stepped away from her car, already dialing. "Uncle Rick, Emma heard him say, "Yeah, it's Tyler. Hey, I need you to come to the parking lot right now. There's a situation." Jessica grabbed Emma's arm through the window. "Emma, what are you doing? He's calling the principal." "I know," Emma said quietly. "Let him." Principal Richard Morrison arrived in the parking lot 4 minutes later, his dress shoes clicking against the pavement. Richard Morrison had been principal of Riverside High for 7 years. He was known for 3 things: his expensive suits, his zero-tolerance policies, and his complete inability to say no to his nephew Tyler. Teachers whispered about it in the break room. How Tyler got away with missing classes. How his grades mysteriously improved right before report cards. How complaints about Tyler's bullying always seemed to disappear. But nobody said anything out loud. Nobody wanted to cross Principal Morrison. "What's going on here?" Morrison asked, walking directly to Tyler and putting a hand on his shoulder. "Uncle Rick, I tried to handle this calmly," Tyler said, his voice suddenly different, softer, more respectful. "But this girl took my parking spot, and when I politely asked her to move, she became really aggressive and hostile." Emma's jaw dropped. "That's not what happened at all." Morrison held up a hand, silencing her. "I wasn't talking to you." He turned back to Tyler. "Did she use profanity?" "Yes, sir." Tyler lied smoothly. "Multiple times, and she threatened me physically." "What?" Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. "That's completely made up. I never swore. I never threatened anyone. I just refused to give up a legal parking space." Morrison finally looked at Emma. His eyes were cold. "What's your name?" "Emma Carter." "Well, Miss Carter, let me explain something to you." Morrison crossed his arms. "At Riverside High, we have certain understandings, certain traditions. Tyler is a valued student-athlete who represents this school at the highest level. If he says this is his spot, then it's his spot." Emma felt her anger rising, but forced herself to stay calm. "Sir, with all due respect, there's nothing in the student handbook about reserved parking spaces. This is marked as general student parking. I arrived first. I have every right to park here." "Don't lecture Emmy about school policy," Morrison snapped. "I write the school policy. Now you have 2 choices. Move your car right now, or face disciplinary action for disorderly conduct and threatening a student." Jessica whispered urgently, "Emma, just move, please." Emma looked at the principal, at Tyler's smug smile, at the small crowd of students that had gathered, phones out, watching. She thought about her mother, about how disappointed Diane would be if Emma got in trouble, about how this could affect her college applications. But she also thought about every time she'd seen Tyler bully someone and get away with it. Every time someone with power had pushed around someone without it. "No," Emma said quietly. "I'm not moving. I didn't do anything wrong." Morrison's face turned purple. "Excuse me? You heard me. I'm not moving. If you want to write me up for parking legally in a public student space, go ahead. But I'm not moving." The parking lot went silent. Students' eyes went wide. Nobody talked to Principal Morrison like that. Morrison stepped closer to Emma's car, his voice low and dangerous. "You just made the biggest mistake of your high school career. Get to my office." Now Emma sat in the chair across from Principal Morrison's massive desk. His office was decorated with certificates, photos of him with local politicians, and a large portrait of himself, shaking hands with the previous superintendent. Vice Principal Stevens stood nervously in the corner, holding a disciplinary form on a clipboard. Tyler had been allowed to sit in a comfortable chair by the window. He was scrolling through his phone, occasionally smirking. "Miss Carter," Morrison began, settling into his leather chair. "In my 7 years as principal, I have never encountered a student as disrespectful as you've been today. Sir, I was just asterisk." "Quiet." Morrison slammed his hand on the desk. "You will speak when I give you permission. Is that understood?" Emma pressed her lips together and nodded. "You parked in a space that was clearly understood to be reserved. When politely asked to move, you became belligerent and hostile. You used profanity toward a fellow student. You made physical threats. And when I, the principal of this school, gave you a direct order to move your vehicle, you refused." "That's not what happened," Emma said firmly. "Tyler is lying." "Are you calling my nephew a liar?" Morrison's voice was ice cold. "I'm saying his version of events is factually incorrect. I never swore. I never threatened anyone. I simply refused to give up a parking space I was legally entitled to use." Morrison leaned back in his chair. "Do you know how many students I've expelled in my time here, Miss Carter?" Emma's stomach dropped. Expelled 43 students. 43 kids who thought they were special, who thought the rules didn't apply to them, who thought they could disrespect authority and face no consequences. Sir, this is about a parking spot. This is about respect. Morrison roared, standing up. This is about understanding that when you come to my school, you follow my rules. And when you disrespect my family, there are consequences. Vice Principal Stevens shifted uncomfortably. Principal Morrison, perhaps a suspension would be more appropriate. Did I ask for your opinion, Stevens? No, sir. Then keep it to yourself. Morrison pulled out a pre-printed expulsion form from his desk drawer. Emma noticed with horror that it was already partially filled out. He'd planned this. Miss Emma Carter, Morrison said formally, effective immediately. You are expelled from Riverside High School for threatening a student, insubordination, and flagrant disrespect for school authority. You will collect your belongings from your locker and vacate the premises within the hour. Security will escort you. Emma felt tears sting her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of Tyler's satisfied smirk. You can't do this, Emma said, her voice shaking slightly. You're expelling me over a lie about a parking spot. This is abuse of power. Morrison smiled coldly. I can do whatever I want. I'm the principal. Now get out of my school. Emma walked through the hallway in a daze, a security guard following 5 steps behind her. Students stared, whispered, pulled out phones. By the time Emma reached her locker, the story was already spreading across social media. Hashtag Riverside High. Hashtag parking lot drama. Videos of the confrontation already had hundreds of views. Jessica ran up to her. Emma, oh my God, what happened? I got expelled, Emma said numbly, opening her locker and pulling out her textbooks. Expelled? Over a parking spot? That's insane. Morrison did it to prove a point. To show everyone what happens when you don't bow down to Tyler. Emma's phone buzzed. A text from her mother. How's your day going, sweetheart? Emma stared at the text. For 3 years, she'd kept her mother out of her school life. No special treatment, no pulling rank, no using family connections to solve problems. But this was different. This wasn't about special treatment. This was about injustice. Emma stepped into an empty classroom, closed the door, and called her mother. Emma. Diane answered immediately, her voice concerned. You never called during school. Is everything okay? Mom, Emma said, and suddenly the tears she'd been holding back started to fall. Mom, I need you. What happened? Emma told her everything. The parking spot. Tyler's lies. Morrison's threats. The expulsion. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. When Diane finally spoke, her voice was calm. Calm. Emma, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Do not leave school property. Go to the library and wait for me there. I will be at Riverside High in 20 minutes. Mom, what are you going to do? What I should have done a long time ago, Diane said. Principal Morrison has been on my radar for months. Multiple complaints about favoritism toward his nephew, grade tampering, misuse of school funds. I've been building a case, waiting for the right moment. Emma's eyes widened. You knew about Tyler, sweetheart. I know about everything that happens in my district. I just couldn't act without proper documentation. But, expelling my daughter over a fabricated story. Diane's voice hardened. That's the documentation I needed. Emma sat in the library. Her expelled student form crumpled in her shaking hands. Other students kept looking at her, whispering. The librarian had asked if she was okay 3 times. Then Emma heard it. The announcement. Principal Morrison and Vice Principal Stevens. Please report to Conference Room A immediately. Principal Morrison and Vice Principal Stevens to Conference Room A. The voice on the intercom was unfamiliar, professional, authoritative. 5 minutes later, Jessica burst into the library. Emma, oh my God, you need to see this. What? There's like official-looking people in suits walking through the school, and someone said, the superintendent is here. Emma's heart started racing. Down the hallway, Principal Morrison was walking confidently toward conference room, straightening his tie. Probably some routine district inspection. He muttered to Vice Principal Stevens, nothing to worry about. The superintendent does these surprise visits sometimes. Morrison pushed open the conference room door and stopped dead. Sitting at the head of the long table was Diane Carter, Diane Richardson. As Morrison knew her, the district superintendent, his boss, but she wasn't alone. 3 school board members sat to her right, 2 district HR representatives to her left, and a stern-looking man in a dark suit, who Morrison recognized immediately, the district's attorney. Superintendent Richardson, Morrison said, forcing a smile. I didn't know we had a meeting scheduled today. Sit down, Richard, Diane said coldly. Morrison and Stevens sat. Diane opened a thick folder. Richard, Do you know an Emma Carter? Morrison's confident smile faltered slightly. Yes, she's a student who was expelled this morning for threatening behavior and insubordination. Expelled on her first disciplinary offense. It was a serious situation. Let me tell you what I know about Emma Carter. Diane interrupted, her voice sharp as steel. Emma Carter is a 17-year-old honor student with a perfect 4.0 GPA. She's never received a single disciplinary action in 3 years at Riverside High. She volunteers regularly. She's captain of the volleyball team. She's been accepted to 3 universities. Morrison shifted in his seat. With all due respect, Superintendent, the situation this morning, Diane cut him off, was that Emma parked in a legal student parking space. Your nephew, Tyler Henderson, demanded she move because he considers it his spot, despite no such policy existing in the student handbook. When Emma refused, Tyler called you and fabricated a story about threats and profanity. That's not how did you. Diane pulled out her laptop and turned it around, because 5 students recorded the entire confrontation on their phones. I've watched all 5 videos. Tyler, lead, Richard, and you expelled a Strata student to protect him. The room was silent. Vice Principal Stevens looked like he might faint. But here's what makes this particularly interesting. Diane continued. Emma Carter is my daughter. Morrison's face went white. Your daughter, my daughter, who begged me 3 years ago not to reveal our relationship because she didn't want special treatment, who worked her tail off to earn every grade, every achievement, without using my name or position. Diane's voice was shaking with controlled anger now. And you expelled her over a parking spot to protect your nephew's ego. Morrison started stammering. Superintendent, I had no idea if I had known. If you had known, you would have treated her differently. Diane stood up. That's the problem. Richard, students should be treated fairly regardless of who their parents are. But you've been playing favorites for years. She pulled out another stack of documents. 17 formal complaints about your nephew in the past 2 years. Bullying, harassment, academic dishonesty. Every single complaint mysteriously disappeared because you buried them. I was trying to give the boy a chance too. You were abusing your authority, Diane said flatly. The school board has reviewed all of this evidence. We've also uncovered some interesting discrepancies in your discretionary funds. Seems like you've been approving expenses for your nephews. Football equipment using money allocated for students with disabilities. Morrison's hands started shaking. I can explain. You'll have the opportunity to explain it to investigators, Diane said. She nodded to the attorney, who slid a document across the table. Richard Morrison, effective immediately. You are suspended without pay pending a full investigation into misconduct, misuse of school funds, and abuse of authority. You will surrender your keys, your school ID, and you will vacate the premises today. Morrison stared at the document in horror. You can't. My career, I've dedicated 7 years to this school. You dedicated 7 years to protecting your nephew and yourself, Diane corrected. Mr. Stevens, you'll serve as acting principal until we complete the investigation and hire a permanent replacement. Stevens nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. Diane closed her folder and looked directly at Morrison. You expelled my daughter to prove you had power. Let me prove something to you. Richard, you never had the power. I did, and I just used it. Emma was still in the library when her mother found her. Emma stood up uncertainly. Diane wrapped her daughter in a tight hug. You're not expelled, sweetheart. Principal Morrison is. Emma pulled back. What? As they walked to the parking lot together, Diane explained everything. Word spread through Riverside High like wildfire. Principal Morrison, escorted out by security, carrying a box of his personal belongings. Emma Carter, the quiet honor student, was the superintendent's daughter. Tyler Henderson, watching from a classroom window, pale and silent, knowing his protection was gone. The next day, Emma parked in the exact same spot. Nobody said a word. Tyler Henderson didn't even look at her when they passed in the hallway. Within a week, he'd transferred to a different school. The new acting principal, Mr. Stevens, established a clear policy. All parking spaces were first come, first served. No exceptions, no favorites. 3 months later, Principal Morrison's investigation concluded. He'd been fired, lost his teaching license, and had to repay the school district $47,000 in misused funds. Emma graduated as valedictorian that June. In her graduation speech, she told the story, not naming names, but everyone knew about the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when you're scared. Sometimes, Emma said to the crowd of students, parents, and teachers, The right thing and the easy thing are not the same. But that doesn't mean we get to choose the easy path. Justice isn't convenient, but it's always worth fighting for. The crowd erupted in applause as Emma left the stage, diploma in hand. She saw Tyler sitting in the back row with his parents. He wasn't clapping. He looked small, defeated. Emma didn't feel triumphant. She didn't feel vengeful. She just felt relieved because in the end, the truth had won. The bully had been stopped, and the principal who protected him had learned a lesson. Nobody is above the rules, not even those who make them.